Hey, do you need wallpaper? Go to wallpaperboulevard.com. Give them my name, tell them Spencer Colgan sent you, and they'll be sure to give you 10% off at checkout. Check it out. Tell them I said hello. They have a tremendous selection. Don't shop anywhere else until you've checked out www.wallpaperboulevard.com. Thank you for coming back to my channel. So, some wallpapers do what's called shrink. It shrinks on the wall. It doesn't really shrink. Can you come over to this side and show them the seams? Wallpaper doesn't shrink. It does expand. And if you want to prove my point, take a scrap piece of your wallpaper and put paste on the back of it. Measure it before the paste and measure it after it. You'll measure its expansion by at least 1/8 of an inch, maybe even 1/4 of an inch, depending on how thick the backing is. Oftentimes when your wallpaper buckles on you, I get calls from all over the country. If the wallpaper buckles, not bubbles, but buckles, meaning it's usually a vertical, it looks like a bubble. You know those balloons when you were kids, you pump them up and they make little animals out of them? You'll see that under your wallpaper. It is a clear sign that the paper hanger didn't do the right thing. To put it nicely, didn't do the right thing. Because it's a sign, come close please, that the wall covering expanded on the wall. And the paper hanger did not leave it expand on his table. It literally, the material of the front and the back is different. You can wet this down on the front. As long as you don't let it go too much into the seams, you wipe it right off. That's what wallpaper is for. It gives you a nice pretty picture and you can wash it for years. And so, the front is not 100% permeable. Yeah. So it resists water penetration. But the back accepts water penetration, and you know what happens after that. It gets larger. You take a brand new sponge, right? You dip it in water. It gets heavier and larger. So what's the point of this? Well, some people who are professionals are still struggling with this because I get calls about your jobs. Not that I'm some know-it-all, but I get calls, and the folks who are getting paid to do this type of work, who are professionals, are not doing their jobs properly because perhaps they don't know, or they rushed it. So when your wall covering manifests buckles, not bubbles, but buckles. Bubbles are one thing. Bubbles happen because the paste, which is wet, releases air. So you get a bubble. But a buckle means that the wall covering did this on the wall. Watch this. You wet it, you put it right on the wall. This is what's going on. Watch this. It goes like this, look. It's moving because it's expanding and it's stuck on the wall, on the edges. It never buckles on the edge. It buckles like this. Look. You'll get that. And that's because it expanded, and since it can't lift and simply overlap the other sheet, it just lifts up. It gives you a buckle, a vertical buckle, which is clearly demonstrating that it's expanding side to side instead of top to bottom. If it were expanding top to bottom, you would have a horizontal buckle. But because the expansion takes place from between the left and the right side, you get the buckle vertical. So, having said that, why do your seams split? Your seams split because of movement in the wallpaper. Do I have a rag here? Let's talk about, let's bring them over here. Show them this. If I take a chunk of ice cubes and I put a rag over it, it's gonna look like that, right? When I put the rag over the ice. As the ice melts, look what happens to the rag. Right? When the volume of the paste under the wallpaper goes down because the air comes out, releases the air, there's movement in the paper because there's movement in the paste, because the air moves out and the paste is left to harden. That displacement of space in the paste causes a little movement under the wall covering. And you look at your seams, always happens the next day, you'll come back and you'll say, what happened? There's a couple of ways to combat that from happening. Number one, some folks will say to put a lining paper underneath it. That lining paper will prevent shrinking because lining paper absorbs the wetness and the air into the paper that is very porous under the wall covering. And therefore, since it's being absorbed right away into the surface underneath it, it happens so quickly, there's no movement in the paper. That's the theory. The other thing is this. If your wall is slick, if you have semi-gloss paint, I saw a veteran installer from Boston, comes down to Tampa. I said, aren't you going to prime the wall, size the wall, prep the wall? Oh no, this paint is very strong. I'm not going to need it. Well, it happened to be a semi-gloss paint. So, we all know semi-gloss paint is slippery. If you use a heavy-duty paste, it's going to grab onto the surface. Some surfaces, however, are more conducive to grabbing the paste and the paste grabbing the surface. It locks in and you get a happy marriage. The wallpaper doesn't move. But when you don't prep the wall and you put the wall covering over the paint, it will slide on you unless you scratch the paint. You take a 60 grit, scratch the paint. You make keys on the paint. and the paste grips into the, or you get a primer and you create a sticky surface that's dry on which to hang your wallpaper. And when the wallpaper goes on with the wet paste, not too thick, just enough. Too thick, you know what's gonna happen. You're gonna be able to move it for hours. If you're able to move wallpaper for hours, you're gonna have a mess. So if you use a tacky preparatory sizing, a preparatory primer, there are many on the market. Oh my goodness. You ask one installer to another, oh, this is my go-to, this is my go-to, this is, you come up with 5 different products. It'll make your head spin. But if I have it, I'm gonna show it to you. I just ordered 2 more. And it should be here. I think it was over there. Anyway, I'll get it. I've shown it on my videos. Basically, we need to make the wall tacky. Tacky. When you tear down wallpaper, sometimes you rip down the paper for the sheetrock and you get that brown paper. If you take Elmer's glue, you know when you're a kid, the little projects, the little orange tip, you take that on your fingers, rub it in there, you can plaster right over it because you're gluing down the paper and you're making it resistant to water. The water-based products you use over that will not seep into that paper and cause it to bubble. Getting back to sliding wallpaper and sliding seams. If the wallpaper goes onto a tacky surface and your paste dries, you will be 99% or better in a position where your wall covering won't move because your wall is sticky and you're pasting it. When you paste the paper, it's sticking onto it and you're creating a Loctite surface. Another way to do it, a lot of installers will take the paste, roll it on the wall, let it dry, and then when they hang their paper, they have 2 layers, one on the paper, one on the wall, locks it down. Guys use different methods, but basically what they're doing is making the wall sticky. Even if it's dry, you can't tell it. You wet your hand, stick it on the wall. After it's dry, you say, hey, this ain't sticky. Wet your hand, put it on the wall. It'll be sticking to the wall. And that's what your wallpaper is going to do. Therefore, the result will be that your wall covering will not move. It will resist movement, therefore resist the splitting of the seams, because the surface will be tacky. And so if your paper is sliding, if your seams are splitting, it's not because your wallpaper shrunk. Prove that to me and I'll believe it, that it shrunk. Measure it and tell me, it was 20 and a half, now it's 20 and a half minus an 1/8, or a 16. You'll see that that's not what's happening. So, if you simply do the Velcro method by gluing the wall first, glue's expensive. You may want to do that, or you may want to just make your own solution to make the wall sticky. And I'll show you on the next frame. Be back in a moment. I'm taking clear paste, heavy duty. And I roll it on the wall. When it dries, we can either paste this product or paste the wall again. to give it a Loctite surface. Now, that's one way. Let me show you. Already, I put on the wall a solution that is glue. All of these products have glue in them. Joint compound has glue. It needs it to stick in the wall. They don't pay me, but I gotta share the secret. I never advertise for products. Take a look. Glues, wood, tile, glass, foam, stone, ceramic, carpet, and more. What's this? Seals, porous surfaces. That's what you're doing. Bonding agent for concrete and plaster. Bonds most anything. Now, I just bought 2 of these off of Amazon and paid about $95. But guess what? I don't have to have a wet bucket, a wet pail of, or as you say in the UK, a wet tin of primer. I mix it up. And I can change the ratio, 3 parts water, 1 part this, 4 parts water, 1 part this, depends. I don't like it too thin. You put it in a bucket, you roll it on the wall, and it's your sizing agent. And the reason you're doing it is to seal the wall. 1, sizing agents seal the surface. Why do you want to seal the surface? Because when you take off the wallpaper, if the surface is sealed, the wallpaper is going to come off without the wall, because the wall is sealed. 2, you will lock down your patchwork of plaster, joint compound, skim coat, whatever, torn sheetrock. You're locking it down with a sizing agent so that you have a universal coverage of the wall covering on the wall. So you don't see, what's this? It's lifting here, or the seams are splitting. It makes the surface tacky so that the wall covering sticks to the wall and the wall covering doesn't move. All those fancy primers all do what this does. There's a very famous product on the market. I'm not going to mention it. It's the go-to product that a lot of wallpaper hangers use. And if Capo Wacko from LA or whatever part of California you're from is watching, he swears by it. And I swear by it too. It's good stuff. When you skim coat, use this product, he would say. If not, use this. There's products like guards. There's also, comes in purple and like, oh man, I forget what it's, Shield. SHIELDZ. Try to find it. Hardware stores carry it. I'm done shopping around. Here you go, right here. Wellbond, if you want to send me some money, look at my YouTube channel. You can do it. I'm sure you won't. But anyway, I'm going to get back to work. I'm going to show you a split seam so that it doesn't happen here. See you on the next one. She's coming close. When I first started out, I'm going to be honest with you. I came back the second day. This is what I saw. Show them this. Nice and close. Alrighty. Let's get in there. You can have a split that's 1/8 of an inch. I'll tell you what. It's almost irreparable when this is dry like this. That's the worst you'll see though. I've heard of it worse, but I wasn't there to say I saw it. It's 1/8 of an inch. And that happened to me back in the early 90s in a house that I wallpapered at 74 Veltman Avenue, Staten Island, New York, 10314. True story. Okay, so now this is how you prevent it. Now, when you have wallpaper that plays games on you like that, because some wallpaper doesn't do it. Can you come in close? I'm going to show you how to lay it out. I get traction from this. You don't want to be, sometimes wallpaper will give up the color on your hand because your hand's hard. Use something that's smoother. Come in close. I'm going to push it toward the seam. I want them to see the process. Keep wiping it. Get real close with your eyes. You see that? Now, when you get it on top of that seam, you're going to come down. Okay, let's do it again. Now, as I rub the wallpaper, do you hear the difference in noise? Listen to this. Hear the difference? What's the difference? There's air over here. We got to make sure we get that out. Now, push in. Now take my smoother, push down. Now you see the lines gone? That's locked in. It's called embedding the seam. I've embedded it. I just wipe it down there. Now I work over here, keep working over here. Now let's see if I get rid of the air. Let's listen. See the difference? Come in close. Just let them listen. Same noise. There's no difference. I got rid of the air. That's it, folks. That's all you need to know. If you follow what I said here, you're going to be a success. See you on the next video.